Hello and welcome back. It's me, Valerie Monroe, and me, Bookwormy. And we're here today to continue our journey through the book, Journey to Nagwanis. Let's get to it. You got it, Bookwormy. So we're up to chapter 14. And if you remember from last time, Brogden and Finley have just left the land of Nagwanis. They successfully delivered the Amber Rose, and all kinds of good things came from that. Now we're starting the chapter called The Journey Home. He still hasn't caught anything yet, chuckled Brogden, as they passed the statue of the boy with the fishing pole. But Finley did not reply. His eyes were bright with anticipation. His pace seemed to quicken with every step. The homebound portion of the trip seemed much shorter, and before they knew it, they were back at the gate. This time, the gnome on duty was wide awake and clutching a tiny piece of paper. I can't believe it. I just can't believe it, he muttered. Finley rapped soundly on the gate, which startled the gnome on duty. The piece of paper flew out of his hand and fluttered in the air for a moment before landing under the desk. The gnome dropped to his knees and began crawling around, frantically searching for it. My telegram, he cried. Where did it go? Excuse me, Brogden called to him, but can you kindly grant us passage? The gnome on duty looked up in surprise. Oh, I'm so sorry, he replied. He rose to his feet, dusted off his pants, unlocked the gate, and ushered them through. I just received unbelievable news. I have been reading it repeatedly to be sure I understood it properly. For all I know, it could be a prank. The feud between the Razvins and the Lorens has ended. Brogden winked at Finley. You don't say, he smiled. Well, that's fine news for Nagwanis. Oh, to be sure and double sure. I never thought such a thing would happen in my lifetime. Why, you two must have heard or seen something of it. Actually, it did look like something magical was going on, Finley told him, but we've no time to linger. I must get home and meet my newborn son before he's a bearded man. And my answer is surely sick with worry, added Brogden, so if you'd kindly let us pass, we'll be on our way. Finley handed over the travel visa, and the gnome on duty returned it to the desk. He then made a small notation in a ledger and then handed a brown carton to each of them. I am glad that your delivery was successful. Please, take these box lunches as a small token of appreciation for visiting Nagwanis. Do take care on your journey home. We certainly will, Finley said quickly. Thank you. He and Brogden jumped off the plateau and descended down the steps that they had climbed before. New signs bid them farewell and come back soon, and thanks for visiting Nagwanis. Gradually, the air became colder and the tunnel grew darker. When they reached the halfway point, and if you remember that halfway point, they had gone there on the way there as well, they found that the food jar had been replenished. But since they had their complimentary box lunches with them, there was no need to take any food from it. They rested on the wooden bench and nibbled on sandwiches inside, which turned out to be fish on some sort of a grainy bread. After they had wiped the last of the crumbs stuck to their chins, Brogden leaned back against the wall to rest. Mesmerized by the shadows, he patted his full belly and sighed. Finley followed suit, and presently their eyelids grew heavy. Both of them realized they would fall asleep, just as they had on the approach to Nagwanis. Brogden thought that if he ever journeyed to Nagwanis again, he would bring along some of Aunt Gladys's embroidered pillows. Oh, a cat nap is all we need, Brogden suggested groggily. Yes, 40 winks. Just to rest our legs, Finley whispered in agreement, leaning against Brogden. Brogden slipped off into the loveliest dream. In it, he was presenting the gold nugget to John and suggesting that maybe it could help Maggie in some way. John was saying he would purchase a more secure sanctuary for her. It was a delightful dream until Brogden heard someone calling his name. At first he thought it was Fred, his web-footed friend, but then he remembered Fred had migrated. Brogden! Brogden! What? Who? He mumbled as the voice grew louder. Brogden! Wake up, cried Finley. I just remembered something. The gnome stood beside him, shaking like a leaf in the wind. He was going on hysterically about how, in all the excitement, they forgot about the danger that awaited them at the top of the staircase. The huge hairy creature that had tried to catch them before. What about poor Che? What would they find when they climbed out through the hole? Would the creature be waiting for them? And had he eaten Che while they were gone? Brogdon wondered, but didn't want to say. Would they be one step closer to their last moments on Earth as they ascended the stairs? Finley was pacing back and forth like a man gone mad. Oh, what to do? What to do? We will face whatever awaits us, replied Brogdon calmly. He placed a steadying hand on Finley's tiny shoulder. You must not waver. Why, by this time tomorrow, you will probably be home with your wife and child, partaking in a glorious home-cooked meal. And I will most likely be enduring one of Aunt Gladys's lectures. My point is this. We have no choice but to continue, so we shall. And we shall make every effort to avoid capture if that dreadful creature is still lurking in the area. Remember, there are two of us and only one of him. Finley smiled a shaky, lopsided grin. Whatever awaits us, he added firmly. Absolutely correct, Brogdon confirmed. Okay, then. Linking arms, they ascended the remaining stairs, so they're going up. Light from the hole grew brighter as they neared the exit. Brogdon was glad there was still some remaining sunshine. If they had to confront that hairy man, Brogdon would rather have it be in the daytime than in the dead of night. All too soon, the number of stairs left was less than the number of fingers on their hands, and they tried to remain as silent as possible. Despite Brogdon's inspiring speech, Finley could not stop his teeth from chattering. When they were 3 steps from the opening, Brogdon paused to listen. There was no wailing, no shrieking, no moaning, no grunting. There was nothing at all to indicate that a creature was lying in wait for them. In fact, the only sounds that he heard were Finley's chattering teeth and gentle whistles as a soft draft of air swirled about the opening. Brogdon took this as an exceptional sign and reasoned that maybe the hairy man had given up on capturing them. So they took another step. There still seemed to be no cause for alarm. Brogdon and Finley looked at the top step and then at each other. An unspoken thought passed between them. Who will climb out first? Listen, you've got a wife and child to take care of and think of, Brogdon whispered. If that hairy man or beast or whatever is still out there, I'll do my best to distract him while you climb out and run, okay? Do not look back, understand? Finley nodded. I'm going to peek out first, Brogdon went on. If it's all clear, we exit. No turning back. But, Finley interjected, we wouldn't even be in this terrible situation if it wasn't for my delivery. I should go first. No, Brogdon commanded. It's settled and I'm off. He ascended to the uppermost stair and then peered out carefully from the opening. There was no sign of the hairy man. Sadly, no traces of Che were visible either. Well, that could be a positive sign, Brogdon considered. At least he wasn't looking at a pile of green feathers lying on the ground. He waited for several minutes, watching and listening for anything that might indicate danger. Snapping branches, shrieks, cries, howls of distress. The air was still. Only once did he hear a pattering of footsteps, which sounded like 2 squirrels in a chase. That was all. Behind him, Finley was growing impatient. Well, is it safe? What do you see? Can we go now? Can we? Brogdon turned around and held his finger to his lips to shush the gnome. After another few moments, he became convinced that it was safe to exit the tunnel. Follow me, he told Finley. And for goodness sake, keep your voice low. Maybe it was because the delivery was completed. Maybe it was because there was a lump of gold stuffed securely inside his cap. Maybe it was because he would soon be holding his son. Whatever the reason, Finley completely ignored his friend's words. He shoved Brogden aside, and the foot toppled backwards down the stairs. Finley popped his own head out of the hole and began shouting, "My loves! My wife, my son, hear me!" he cried exuberantly. "Though time and miles have separated us, hear me! I am on my way!" Finley hoisted himself out of the hole and let out a whoop of joy. Off and away, homeward bound. A few steps below, Brogden smiled and shook his head as he steadied himself against the wall of the tunnel. Instead of following Finley out, he let the gnome enjoy his moment of glory. He could see the shadows of Finley's victory dance and wondered if one day, when he was much older, of course, he would have a wife and child of his own to love and miss. At any rate, his aunts would be glad to see him. They would dote on him when he returned. Well, at least Aunt Hazel would lavish him with embraces and mugs of comforting tea. Aunt Gladys would go off on a tirade about his adventures, while exciting for him caused them no small amount of worry. He would not be surprised if she created a leash of sorts to keep him close to home. He was so caught up in these daydreams that it took him a few moments to realize that Finley's dancing shadow had disappeared, and his songs and shouts of triumph had ended. And now there was only a heavy silence. "Finley?" called Brogden. "Finley?" No answer. Nothing. A nauseous feeling of fear washed over him, and he scrambled up and out of the hole. His heart beat wildly as his head swiveled back and forth, searching in every direction. Finley was nowhere in sight. A shriek pierced the air, and Brogden whirled in the direction from where it had come. There was just enough daylight to catch a fleeting glimpse of a house-dwelling boy romping through the trees. He was carrying a large black sack, and something in the bag was struggling to get out. "Wait till I show Grammy, wait till I show her," the boy sang as he ran. "A real live lawn gnome. I knew I could catch one. I knew it. He leaped across the rocks and swung the bag back and forth like a pendulum. Brogden knew there was no way he could catch up with the boy. A moment later, the boy disappeared with his sack. And that was the last Brogden saw or heard of Finley. What'd you think of that chapter? "Well, I thought it was going well until Finley got captured and put in the bag by the boy." "I know." "Where do you think he is?" "I don't know. But we have to read on with the story." "Yes, we do, because there's more to read. So please join us next time. Please join us next time for more of Journey to Nagwanis.